Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Toshiba. I know I don't do a lot of Toshiba products on this channel, but it's only because I have a hard time finding them in good condition. But don't worry, I won't disappoint. So you're at Walmart, you're buying groceries, and you're like, you know, honey, I think we should have a laptop so that the babysitter can do something while she's watching our kid. So your wife is like, hey, let's buy a laptop. That sounds like a great idea, even though it's a terrible one. So you go to electronics, you've got a grocery cart full of pot roast, potatoes, diapers, deodorant, and macaroni and cheese. And you're like, hey, look, there's a laptop. It's a Toshiba! They make great laptops, don't they? Yeah, your dad had one in the early 90s and it was awesome. I played Doom on it. And you're like, alright, let's buy it. It's only $300. So you pick up this laptop, which is locked up in a case like someone's going to freaking steal it. And that electronics employee is eyeing you. Better not walk off with that thing without paying. You know what? I'm going to ring it out here. And you're like, well, I've got all these groceries. Can you ring those out too? And the guy's like, no. And then you're like, well, I pay my taxes. Why the hell won't you ring up my groceries? And the guy's like, well, I make $6 an hour and F you and get out of my store. Things don't really usually de-escalate to that point, or escalate to that point, as the case may be. But you're like, well, okay then, I'll pay for this laptop, but then I'm going to go pay for my pot roast in a line that's 400 carts long, with a cashier who wants to tell me her entire life story while she's bringing out my potatoes. Well, that laptop you buy is this one. This is the laptop you walked out of the store with that you paid $350 for because you're a cheap prick who doesn't know good technology when he sees it. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so this is a modern day Toshiba laptop. This is what they have devolved into. And I was at a technology conference for business and educational buyers, and Toshiba was there. And I'm like, hi Toshiba. And the guy's like, how you doing? I'm like, good. I'm like, nobody's at your booth. So what do you do? I'm like, well, we still sell laptops. I'm like, oh, that's great. I think my grandmother has one. Anyway, have a nice day. And that was it. You know, I took a free pen. I think it might be in this cup here somewhere. But anyway, let's not get off track. This is a modern Toshiba laptop. These are really utter crap. They're just very poorly made. They're built to a price point, and that is it. Toshiba is really in trouble as an electronics manufacturer. I know that they've had some issues in their nuclear division lately. I know that they're just not in good health. A lot of, it's sad, a lot of Japanese mainstay industry or corporate giants are in the same boat. Sony, for example, Panasonic. They're being taken over by the Chinese and the South Korean in terms of market share and technology prowess. But this Toshiba satellite, I've got to be honest. Now, I rag on Toshiba all the time because of the customers who usually buy them are just buying them so they can go on Facebook and bitch about whatever. But literally, this is a very nice looking laptop. It has a nice brushed aluminum, and it feels like it's real aluminum. Wrist pad. The keyboard is, it's painted glossy black, which doesn't usually hold up for real use, but then again, Facebook bitching on mommy blogs. But what I really don't like about this laptop is its flimsy construction, which is held together by magic and maybe a couple of screws, and the display is glossy. This is definitely a consumer laptop. This is not something you want to bring to a board meeting. Another thing is it doesn't travel well. It's a 15-inch laptop, so it's wide. I just don't see the point of a 15-inch laptop personally. I'd rather have a desktop at that point, or maybe even an all-in-one, because these are so anti-ergonomic. The reason I sold my MSI laptop that I just bought last summer, and I did sell it, and I got a pretty good chunk for it, the reason I hated it so much was the keyboard. It was offset. The trackpad is offset. It's just an unnatural position. I will be buying a ThinkPad soon, possibly even a used one, because they are expensive. I can get a used one real cheap. But anyway, it's a flimsy little piece of crap for mommy blogging, and that's all it is, and that's all it ever will be. This particular one, if you're curious, the reason I have it is it was given to me because the person wanted the data off of it, and the hard drive, now this thing actually does run, kinda. It will post, but the hard drive controller appears to be completely non-functional. I cannot get it to detect a drive, and I'm not willing to pay for a new drive interface cable. It has a proprietary SATA adapter that goes in here, and it's really flimsy. I'm talking the flimsiest thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, and I'm not willing to pay money to try it and gamble on that because it's just a crappy machine. This is actually, I think it's an AMD. I think it's even a quad core. This is really a nice machine when you spec it out, but it's just crap. I mean, there's nothing holding it together. It's just a thin plastic, ABS plastic shell with a sheet of, it appears to be galvanized steel that's attached to it with melted rivets where they have a post that protrudes through that's molded into the plastic, and then they melt it down with a like an iron. That's all that really holds it together. The hinges are really thin steel. You know, there's not really a lot holding this thing together. Definitely a laptop meant to last no more than 3 years, and it actually lasted 4, so hey, you know, win-win. But yeah, this is what you get for 350 bucks today. I mean, or maybe 400, maybe a little more. This was probably a more expensive model. But again, things at Toshiba were not always this bad. Toshiba was once the laptop. When you thought laptop, you thought Toshiba. When you thought television, you thought Toshiba. When you thought handybook, Toshiba. Or at least in a certain Colorado mountain town. But what we have here is a Toshiba satellite from when times were good over at the land of the rising sun. And this laptop is really a nice little machine. This one here dates back to 1996, and it has the thickness to prove it. This thing clocks in at just over 2 1/8 thick. 2 1/8 inches thick. Damn! So, and it's heavy too. It probably weighs a good 6-7 pounds maybe. It features an integrated power supply, which you can't even get today. Runs on a Pentium 75 or a 100, I'm not sure which. But it's got an integrated power supply, so all you need is a universal radio cord. Because, I mean, really, these things are ubiquitous worldwide. And because it has an automatic voltage selecting power supply, input range 100 to 240 volts AC, you can bring this anywhere in the world and just plug it in with a locally sourced radio cord, and you're off and running. No need to buy an expensive adapter or a converter of any kind. That's cool. It's also less stuff you have to carry in your bag. I mean, you got a 12-pound laptop in there, but you know, you don't need a power supply alongside it. The other thing is, this is probably one of the last Toshibas to be sold without a CD-ROM drive. In 1996, CD-ROM drives were starting to become kind of standard equipment on laptops, and I think it was 98 or so when that really became a thing. But in 96, you could still buy a laptop with a floppy drive only. Oftentimes, you'd buy an external CD-ROM drive should the need arise. I did mention in an earlier video, I've owned this laptop for roughly 3 years. In an earlier video, I talked about how this is really an amalgam of 2 different Toshiba satellites, a 105 and a 110. The actual model number of this laptop is a 110 CT, but there are parts from a 105. I don't remember what that was, but I do know that it is a bit of a mystery box. So, The battery is completely toast, will not charge. The laptop simply ignores its presence. I might have even blocked it off because it might have been shorting out. So I may actually go ahead and... there are some of my vintage laptops that I plan on having the packs rebuilt. This is one of them. So we're powered up here with a standard radio cord, and before we continue I'll show you what it's got for ports. We've got a battery door here in the bottom. One of the things I liked about these Toshibas is that the batteries are always easily accessible. And you could remove the battery pack and put the covers back on and still use the laptop like it was a normal machine. Yeah, this is what we got for a battery pack. This is an original Toshiba. And it appears to be, it's a nickel metal hydride. One of the worst ones. So we've got a hard drive caddy so we can rip the battery and the hard drive out. Again, Toshibas were usually pretty easy to service for the basic stuff. Memory is accessible via a door on the bottom. So, I mean, these were easy to upgrade, and if you needed a battery or a hard drive replacement, it could have been done in seconds. So on this side, we've got two PCM-CIA slots, a reset button, and is that a crack? No, that's a scratch. I'm like, hey, I never noticed a crack in this one before. But no, it's just a little scratch. On the back, we've got our VGA, parallel, serial, and PS2. Notice how this laptop does not feature any audio jacks. That's right, this was a non-multimedia laptop. No CD, no audio, no soup for you. Which, I believe that episode came out around the time this laptop was made. You see how I tied that all together? Just like a nice little... Oh, I'm so good at that. Anyway. Maybe? No. Too smug? Too self-serving? Maybe? Alright, maybe not. Moving on. Let's put the power to the metal. Or whatever you want to call that. So let's see if she runs. Now this laptop I haven't really turned on in a long time. This is the first time I've turned it on in about 2 years maybe. Since it was probably refurbished. I refurbished it. Yeah. I got that kind of dough. So let's turn it on. I have always liked Toshiba's, the original satellite line, because it, you know what it is? It dates back to me being a jealous school kid in a wealthy town. There was this kid in my class back in middle school. And he came from a wealthy family. Like, tons of money kind of thing. Trust funds, BMWs, the whole works. Well, this kid came to school with a Toshiba satellite, a 486, an earlier version of this. And just because he could, you know, he had, here we are sitting in this would, let's set the scene here. It's 1995, New England, middle school, you know. What grade were we in 90? 9th grade, 10th grade, maybe? Did I say that right? No, I meant 5th or 6th. Yeah, I don't know time frames good. 1996, 95, and he comes into school with a freaking laptop. And I was so jealous because guess what I had at home then? I had a Tandy 1000 HX that I didn't even know how to use. And he comes in, waltzing in with a freaking laptop. And guess what it was? It was a Toshiba satellite, and I don't remember what the model number was. It was definitely a T series, T something. Probably T4000 or something like that. And I'm like, you son of a... You know, I was so jealous of this kid. Because, you got to remember, at that time, a laptop that turned on was automatically worth $1,000. I mean, his father probably paid, you know, $2,000 for this thing, and he's carrying it to school like it's a notebook or a, you know. You got to remember, in the 90s, kids didn't have laptops. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have anything. If you had a computer at home, you were lucky. No, really. Most of my classmates didn't even have computers, and this was a wealthy community. Except for me, I grew up in the poor side. But anyway, it was a satellite, so ever since then I've had this, like, I've always liked the satellites because it was the first laptop of envy for me. The first time it was probably one of the first laptops I had ever seen in my life, to be honest with you. No, that credit goes to the PowerBook 140. But yeah, that was a Mac, and nobody liked Macs in the 90s. Are you kidding me? It was all about Windows 95, man. So here we have Windows 95 version B. This is not the original build to my knowledge, but it could be. There's a person's name here, but it is 400950 is the version. So this might actually be version A. No, it's got to be B. No, it's not B. It doesn't say B, but it doesn't say A either. One way to find out, though, I don't remember. There was some obvious stuff in version B. This has all the original Windows 95 backgrounds, but yeah, I haven't really put this has the Toshiba logo in it. You know what that means? You think of what I'm thinking? Yes, B2. What are you thinking? This has the factory build. Wouldn't you know it? Check this out. I'm going to zoom in on this. It's still got the Toshiba logo background. That is a factory build, guys. That was one way you could tell if your classic machine still had its factory build image, if it had the factory logo background. And normally, people wouldn't reinstall that after rebuilding it from a retail set of Windows disks. So this looks like it's definitely a factory build. That's pretty cool. No, it really is. I mean it. Honest. So what do we have for software? I've installed a few items using an external CD-ROM drive. Click and Play, for example. Microsoft Bob. Microsoft Works 4.0. Is this my original 4.0? I'll tell you in a minute. Depending on who it's registered to. No, this is not. This is Toshiba Preferred User. So this is a factory installed application. Oh, how cool is that? That is cool, cool, cool. I'm having a bit of a nostalgic overload here. But anywho, so this laptop features just 8 megabytes of RAM, an early Pentium processor. It's either a 75 or a 100, I don't remember which. And it has a built-in TFT display, which makes this kind of a nicer machine than what the alternative would have been. Because it has at least 1 megabyte of video memory, it supports 16-bit color. It even supports 24-bit color, which is kind of nice. The display's native resolution is 800 by 600. If you bring it up any higher than that, what's going to happen is it'll start to scale, and we don't want to do that. You don't really want to run these early flat panels in anything but their native resolution, because they cannot scale like a modern LCD can. They can run at one resolution only. So, that having been said, what's this? FLC file. What is that? Ooh, it's got the Toshiba screensaver. What the hell? Wait a minute. Did you see that? It said 105 CS. Oh boy. Okay. Alright. It looks like I put the hard drive from the 105, a 75 megahertz Pentium processor. So I got the hard drive from a 105 CS in here that had the factory build on it. That's what this is. Holy crap. Really? No, that can't be. Well, it is, like I said, this is an amalgam of multiple machines, so I don't know what the hell this thing is anymore. 10.4 DSTN display. This is not a DSTN display. This is a TFT. Did you see that? Let's play it again. This is not a 10.4 DSTN. So it's probably a Pentium 100. What's the screen size? It's an 11-inch. 11 point something display. Not a 10-inch DSTN. Well, that's a mystery, because I don't know what we have here. I really don't. Well, it does have 8 megs of RAM. That we know. But there's no way, yeah, it does not have a 10.4-inch display. It's got a, yeah, something a little bit nicer than that. Well, nevertheless, local bus video. Remember local bus? Those were the days, man. So what else can I tell you? I'm trying to figure out what processor this has, and that will kind of narrow it down. Looking for either MS Info or something. Hold on just a second. So I'm not able to figure out what the processor speed is. BIOS does not tell me what it is. This has the earlier Toshiba BIOS, which does not display system information on startup. And Windows 95 back in this day and age didn't have DirectX built in. You had to add it. And this doesn't have it. There was another utility called MSD, Microsoft Diagnostics, which was workable up until certain versions of, up until the 486. It detects a Pentium as a 486, and that's not even here because it doesn't have the full install of DOS 622. This has a factory Windows 95 build. So I have no way of knowing what it has for a processor. It's just a Pentium, that's all it tells me. So that is unfortunate. I think it's a 75 or a 100, I don't know which. There was a system information utility in Windows 98, but Windows 95 doesn't have that. So it's kind of like, ugh. Maybe system monitor, maybe? No. Just tells me processor usage. I wish I knew. But anywho, yeah, this is a pretty bog standard build. It doesn't have any issues of any kind, which is kind of nice. No onboard sound, so using this as an old DOS gaming machine might be an option, but I won't have the digital sound that a newer machine would have. So at this point in time, you know, this laptop is almost kind of redundant in that I already have... Oh, it is charging now. That's good. It wasn't earlier. But it's not going to take a charge, I guarantee it. So, yeah. Anyway. So that's my Toshiba 110 CT. I've had this laptop for ages. And we're just now revisiting it. I'm going to revisit some of my earlier machines that I've had for a while. And, you know, we'll take a look at what I have in the collection to this day, which isn't what it used to be. And I gotta say one more thing though. The machines that I save are always the best examples of what I can source. And if something better comes along, I get rid of the older ones that are in worse condition. This one, I had such a hard time finding a good satellite. I had to take 2 machines to make one. And this is the result. And I thank you for watching. Have a nice day.